What happens when a trillion-dollar Silicon Valley tech giant tries to basically disrupt a city's transportation network, and the city just says no?
Yeah, flat out no.
Right, just no. So today we are doing a deep dive into Turkey, which is a place where these global tech monopolies were essentially forced to abandon their standard playbooks,
Right.
and they had to bend to the will of traditional, like, municipal taxis.
It is a really fascinating market anomaly to look at because if you travel almost anywhere else, Europe or North America, the gig economy model just kind of steamrolled over local taxi syndicates.
Oh, absolutely. Just wiped them out.
Yeah. But the 2026 travel guide that we're analyzing today,
Right.
it shows a totally different reality. Turkey didn't let the algorithm replace its infrastructure. It forced the algorithm to become a subordinate layer on top of it.
Right. So if you're, I don't know, packing your bags for a vacation in Antalya tomorrow, or if you're just a tech nerd studying how global business models actually adapt to local pressure, this deep dive is going to be a great shortcut to understanding what is really a unique hybrid system.
It really is.
But I do want to challenge the premise of this right out of the gate.
Okay, go for it.
Because the whole point of rideshare apps originally was to fix a broken, outdated taxi experience, right?
That was the pitch, yeah.
Right. So if the apps in Turkey are just summoning the exact same yellow municipal cabs that have always been there, how is this not just putting a shiny digital Band-Aid on a 20th century system?
Well, calling it a Band-Aid drastically underestimates the friction that existed in that 20th century system.
Okay.
Think of it more as a digital bridge.
A digital bridge.
Right. The core physical infrastructure, so the cars, the licensed drivers, the municipal meters, that all remains intact.
Right.
What the technology solved was the access and the trust deficit. It perfectly harmonizes local regulatory rules with the modern expectations of a traveler.
Okay, a digital bridge. Let's actually look at how that bridge is built, starting with the heavyweights.
Yeah.
Because our sources point to BiTaksi as the undisputed local champion here.
Yeah, they're huge.
Right. Operating across 34 cities, they've got over 5 million downloads and a pretty solid 4.6-star rating.
Yep.
And then alongside them is Uber. But this is not the Uber that we know in the U.S. or the U.K.
Far from it.
Yeah.
When Uber initially tried to enter the Turkish market years ago with its standard private driver model, UberX.
Right, just regular people in their own cars.
Exactly. When they tried that, they faced massive pushback from the highly organized local taxi associations and the government itself.
Wow.
They realized very quickly that they could either adapt to the local laws or be completely shut out of a massive, incredibly lucrative market.
So they capitulated.
They capitulated. Today, Uber in Turkey, much like BiTaksi, it functions strictly as a smart portal to government-approved yellow taxis, or the slightly more premium turquoise taxis. You are not getting an independent contractor in their personal Honda Civic. You are getting a licensed, regulated professional.
Okay, but I was looking at the pricing structure as detailed in the 2026 guide, and this is where the bridge concept gets a little complicated for the user.
How so?
Well, if you use BiTaksi to hail a standard cab, you are paying the official meter rate, right?
Right, the municipal rate.
Yeah, which the guide says is roughly a 55 TL starting fare and then about 40 TL per kilometer.
Correct.
But then the app automatically tacks on a service fee to every single ride.
Yeah.
It's like a 50 TL service fee, plus they enforce a 70 TL minimum fare, even if you are literally just going 5 blocks. And if you order a larger or a luxury taxi, that service fee jumps to 90 TL.
Right.
So to put that in perspective, an airport run from Istanbul airport to Taksim runs about 30,350 TL. So why would anyone pay a hefty premium just to summon a car they could theoretically hail from the curb for free?
Because you aren't paying for the car. You are paying for the software's ability to eliminate variables. Let's break down the mechanics of that fee. If you step out onto the street and wave your hand, you're immediately introducing a half dozen points of friction.
Like,
well, do they speak your language? Do they know exactly where your hotel is? Are they going to take the scenic route to pump up the meter? Will they magically claim the credit card machine is broken at the end of the trip?
Ah, the classic tourist traps.
Exactly, those variables.
Right.
When you pay that 50 TL service fee through BiTaksi or Uber, you are essentially buying a localized insurance policy against all of that.
Okay.
You punch in the destination so the routing is locked and it's tracked by GPS. The driver's identity and their license are logged in a central database.
Right.
The payment is handled digitally. So the physical taxi meter is still ticking, but it's being overseen by a software layer that enforces total transparency.
That completely reframes the fee. It is essentially a peace of mind tax. You're subsidizing the software that keeps everyone honest.
Exactly. And it removes the traditional algorithmic surge pricing.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. Because the core cost is rooted in municipal meter laws rather than a Silicon Valley supply and demand algorithm, your per kilometer rate doesn't suddenly multiply by 3 just because it started raining.
Wow. That's a huge benefit. Okay, so BiTaksi and Uber solve the problem by strictly enforcing the rules of the municipal meter. But if we flip the coin, the sources highlight another app that throws the fixed meter completely out the window.
Yeah.
Which is wild. It solves the exact same trust problem by doing the exact opposite. It actually encourages open haggling.
Which brings us to inDrive. It is a brilliant pivot in behavioral economics.
The mechanics of inDrive are just wild to me. The rider literally sets the opening bid.
Yep.
You open the app, say you want to go from the museum to the airport, and you offer a flat price, say, I don't know, 500 TL.
Right.
Then drivers in your radius see your bid, and they can either accept it immediately, ignore it, or send back a counteroffer. Like maybe they say, I'll do it for 550.
It functions almost like an open stock market floor, but for transit.
Yeah.
You have a bid and an ask spread happening in real time.
But doesn't this introduce a whole new layer of stress? I mean, part of the appeal of BiTaksi, like you said, is avoiding haggling. I use transit apps so I don't have to think. Now I have to play day trader just to get a ride across town.
It seems counterintuitive until you understand the psychology of fixed versus dynamic pricing, especially in a city known for unpredictable traffic.
Okay, break that down for me.
Think about the emotional toll of a standard taximeter. You are sitting in the back seat, completely gridlocked on a bridge.
Oh, the worst.
Every 30 seconds, you hear that physical click, and the price goes up. You are bleeding money and you have zero control over it.
Yeah, just watching it go up.
That feeling is called loss aversion, and it can literally ruin an entire travel experience.
You're just sitting there calculating how much this traffic jam is costing you per minute instead of looking out the window.
Right. What inDrive does is it front-loads the negotiation so that you can entirely eliminate loss aversion during the actual service.
Oh, I see.
Yes, you spend 45 seconds negotiating on a screen.
Huh.
But once you and the driver agree on, say, a flat rate for the airport run, that contract is locked.
Right.
If there's a detour or if you sit in traffic for an extra hour, the price does not change.
Okay. So you are trading the upfront cognitive load of negotiating for absolute peace of mind during the actual trip.
Exactly. And it benefits the drivers equally.
Yeah, so.
Well, in a standard algorithmic model, drivers are often penalized by the app for declining rides that don't make economic sense for them.
Right, their acceptance rate goes down.
Yeah, but in this open market model, the driver has total agency. They evaluate the distance, the traffic, and the rider's offer, and they only take the job if the margins make sense for their specific situation that day.
Right.
It transforms a cold, automated dispatch into a mutual digital handshake.
That makes total sense for city traversal. The transparency is the key there. But as we zoom out in the source material, it becomes really clear that this ecosystem isn't just about getting from a hotel to a restaurant. The technology is hyper-segmenting the travel market into basically macro and micro distances.
Which is where we see the limitations of the standard taxi model and where these specialized platforms step in to fill the gaps.
Let's start with the macro side. BlaBlaCar.
Yeah.
The sources describe this as a cost-sharing platform for intercity trips. So if I want to cross the entire country, say Istanbul, all the way to the capital, Ankara,
Right.
taking a private taxi for that would be astronomically expensive, and maybe I don't want to deal with the rigid schedule of a bus terminal.
BlaBlaCar solves the logistical nightmare of empty seats.
Yeah.
It connects people who are already making a long drive with people who need to go in the exact same direction.
And the economic model here is entirely different from ride-hailing. The sources note that drivers set a price based strictly on their physical costs, like gasoline and highway tolls.
Right.
There's no surge pricing. The example the guide gives is paying roughly 450 TL for a seat from Istanbul to Bursa,
Right.
which is way cheaper than a private taxi. It's not designed to be a profitable side hustle. It is pure cost sharing.
Which fundamentally changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
You are essentially entering a verified carpool.
Yeah.
The platform builds trust through peer reviews, verified IDs, and transparent routing, which allows two strangers to share a 6-hour journey safely.
Right, because without the app, you'd never get in a car with a stranger for 6 hours.
Exactly. It's incredibly efficient because it taps into resources, empty car seats that are already moving across the country rather than putting new vehicles on the road.
Okay, so that covers crossing the country. But then the 2026 guide pivots to the extreme opposite end of the spectrum, which is micromobility, specifically a domestic platform called Marti.
Marti is crucial to understanding the complete transit matrix. They are categorized as a mobility super app.
Right, and I see that term super app thrown around a lot, and the sources specifically highlight their focus on IoT systems. But what does Internet of Things actually mean in the context of renting a scooter for 10 minutes? Like, how does that elevate it beyond just a basic rental service?
It's a great question, because IoT is often just used as a tech buzzword.
Totally.
But in the context of a micromobility fleet, IoT is the central nervous system of the operation. Every single e-scooter, e-bike, and e-moped in Marti's fleet is embedded with sensors.
Okay.
These sensors aren't just tracking GPS location, they're constantly streaming data back to a central server about battery temperature, motor efficiency, and hardware health.
So they know if a scooter is about to break down before the rider even unlocks it.
Precisely. And we're talking about pretty affordable rates here. Looking at the guide, it's about 2 to 3 TL per minute for the scooters, 2.5 to 3.5 for the e-bikes, and maybe 3 to 4 TL a minute for the mopeds.
Yeah, that's really accessible.
It is. But more importantly, the IoT integration solves the last mile problem of urban planning.
Wait, the last mile problem?
Yeah. Think about the distance between a major subway station and your actual front door.
Okay.
It might be too far to walk comfortably, but it's too short of a distance for a taxi driver to want to pick you up.
Right.
Marti's IoT system analyzes real-time rider demand and traffic flows, allowing the company to physically redistribute their electric fleet to those exact transit hubs right before rush hour hits.
Oh, wow. Okay, I understand the logistics, but let me pause and ask a practical question.
Sure.
Because if I'm a user trying to navigate this country and I have to download BlaBlaCar for a road trip and then inDrive to negotiate a crosstown fare, BiTaksi for a regulated airport run, and then Marti's just to get from the subway to my apartment.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly annoying. Aren't we crossing the line from convenience into total app fatigue, like information overload?
It's a very fair critique. The sheer number of interfaces can feel really overwhelming. But it helps to think of this ecosystem like a golf bag.
A golf bag.
Yeah, you don't use your driver on the putting green, and you don't use a putter to tee off.
Right.
You need a highly specialized club, depending on the exact distance to the hole.
Okay, I follow that.
A regulated municipal taxi is the wrong tool for a 4-block trip down a congested coastal avenue. You need a micro-mobility tool for that.
Like the Myrtle scooter.
Exactly. And an e-scooter is the wrong tool for a trip to the airport with luggage. You don't have to use every app every single day.
Right.
It's about having access to a highly specialized digital toolkit so you can deploy the exact right mechanism for the specific friction you are facing in that moment.
That is a great way to look at it. That makes the fragmentation feel like a feature rather than a bug. You're optimizing for the specific journey.
Right.
And looking at the data, the toolkit is still expanding. The sources highlight new players entering the space, specifically YandexGo, which is a massive tech expansion coming out of Russia.
Yeah, YandexGo's entry into the Turkish market is a perfect example of how geopolitics and regional regulations shape technology. Well, tech platforms need friendly, clear regulatory environments to scale. With all the complexities in the European market right now, a Russian giant like Yandex looks at Turkey's clear, established rules for app-to-taxi integration and sees a highly stable environment to deploy their capital.
Interesting.
They're integrating into cities like Antalya, Adana, Ankara, and Izmir by offering specific software mechanisms that the older apps lack.
Right, like their multi-stop capabilities. The guide points out you can chain together a series of errands without ending the trip.
Yeah.
Or seamlessly book and track rides for family members through a single account. And their baseline in Istanbul right now is roughly a 19 TL base and about 13 TL per kilometer.
Exactly. They're competing on software features because the underlying hardware, the taxi, and the meter is exactly the same as BiTaksi.
Ah, right. They both just summon the same yellow cab.
Exactly. Which proves the point that the innovation is entirely in the digital bridge, not the vehicle itself. But as much as we focus on these massive tech expansions and IoT fleets, we really can't ignore the analog reality of these cities.
Oh, for sure.
Because the smartest technology in the world often finds itself competing with human behaviors that were perfected decades ago.
Yes, the analog legacy. The guide talks about the massive infrastructure of public transport, right?
Yeah.
The metros, the trams, the buses, which you can just tap onto with a unified Istanbul cart.
The Istanbul cart is essential.
Yeah. But the concept that absolutely fascinated me in the source material is the dolmus.
Oh, the dolmus is an absolute staple of the Turkish transit matrix.
Yeah.
It is the beating heart of local movement.
So for context, for our listeners, a dolmus is essentially a shared minibus, but it's incredibly dynamic. There are fixed general routes, but no rigid stops.
Right, you just wave it down.
Exactly. People just flag them down on the street, hop in, pass their cash up to the driver through the other passengers, and then just yell out when they want to get off.
It is decentralized, dynamic routing in its purest physical form.
But wait, think about this. A shared vehicle, driving a general route, picking up multiple strangers in real time, pooling their money to make the trip incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
Isn't the dolmus basically just the analog 20th century version of an Uber pool?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it highlights a really humbling reality for the tech industry.
Yeah.
Very often, what Silicon Valley packages as a revolutionary cutting-edge algorithm is actually just software trying to mimic a human social behavior that has existed organically for generations.
The algorithm is just catching up to the culture.
Completely. The dolmus was doing real-time demand-responsive ride-sharing long before anyone had a smartphone in their pocket.
Wow.
And what's crucial to understand is that all of this new tech, BiTaksi, YandexGo, Marti, none of it has erased the dolmus.
Right.
The digital layer simply sits on top of the analog layer.
Which brings us perfectly back to the core mission of this deep dive. We set out to understand why this transit matrix looks so entirely different from the standard Western model.
And the answer is that the local culture and the local regulatory bodies just refused to be disrupted. They demanded integration instead.
The global tech giants had to bend to the municipality. They had to adopt the local meter, respect the local taxi syndicates, and build digital bridges rather than trying to burn down the old system.
Yep.
Understanding this saves a traveler incredible amounts of time and stress. But more importantly, it provides a masterclass in how a city can successfully push back against tech monopolies.
It really is a profound case study in regulatory power. And it leaves us with a critical concept to consider as we watch the tech landscape continue to evolve globally.
I'm ready. What's the final takeaway?
Well, the source material clearly documents how giants like Uber had to completely ditch their private driver model to survive in this market. They were forced to conform.
Right.
Meanwhile, if you look at cities all around the rest of the world, municipal governments are constantly struggling and often failing to regulate rogue gig economy companies that operate on the strategy of moving fast and breaking things.
The old ask forgiveness, not permission strategy.
Exactly. So here is the thought to mull over. As urban congestion peaks and cities regain their legislative footing, could Turkey's digital bridge model, this strict system where the algorithm is forced to submit to the municipality rather than disrupt it, actually become the inevitable blueprint for the future of global transit?
The day the municipality finally tames the algorithm. I love that.
Yeah.
So the next time you step out of an airport, pull out your phone and fully expect that independent gig worker in the silver sedan. Don't be so shocked if a highly regulated, brightly colored municipal taxi rolls up instead. It might just be the future pulling up to the curb.